If you're over 65, there's a new rule in 2026 that can get you denied boarding, even if you've cruised for years. No warning, no refund. And cruise lines are quietly enforcing it right now. One couple found out the hard way at the terminal. In 2026, cruise lines updated multiple senior-specific policies. Some can save you hundreds of dollars. Others can end your vacation before it even starts. In this video, you'll learn 3 things. How to avoid denied boarding. How to unlock hidden senior perks cruise lines don't advertise. And the exact phrases cruise lines actually respond to. If cruising is in your future, subscribe now. These rules are changing fast, and staying informed is the only protection seniors have. Stay to the end because rule number 6 is the one most seniors break without even realizing it. The new senior rules that can end your cruise. Rule 1. Mobility devices can now disqualify you. A 71-year-old man had cruised 5 times with the exact same mobility scooter. Same cruise line, same ship class, no issues, until 2026. He arrived at the terminal confident, documents ready, vacation ahead of him. But before he reached security, a staff member stopped him and asked one simple question. "How wide is your scooter?" It turned out his scooter was 2 inches wider than the maximum allowed for a standard cabin doorway. 2 inches. That was enough. In 2026, cruise lines began enforcing mobility scooter cruise rules with zero flexibility. If your mobility device cannot fit through a standard cabin door, you can be denied boarding on the spot, even if you've cruised for years. There is no discretion at the terminal. There are no exceptions because it worked before, and in many cases, there are no refunds. This rule exists because cruise lines updated their safety and evacuation protocols. Oversized scooters were blocking hallways during emergency drills, creating liability risks cruise lines can no longer ignore. Here's what most seniors don't realize. Gate agents are now required to enforce measurements exactly as written. That's why denied boarding seniors' cruise incidents are rising, quietly, and without warning. The fix is simple, but it must happen early. Before you book, measure your scooter's width precisely. Then request written confirmation of your cabin door width directly from the cruise line. Do not rely on past experience. Do not assume loyalty status protects you, because in 2026, this one rule alone has become the #1 reason seniors lose their cruise before it even begins. Rule 2. Mandatory digital health clearance. She thought the email was spam. It wasn't. 48 hours before sailing, a retired teacher received what looked like a generic cruise email asking her to complete a digital health form. She ignored it. She had cruised before. Health checks were done at the port, or so she thought. In 2026, that assumption can cost you hours, stress, or your entire trip. Cruise lines have introduced mandatory digital health clearance, and here's the critical change. If the form is not completed, your boarding pass can be automatically locked in the system. This isn't a suggestion anymore. It's a gatekeeping mechanism. Cruise lines now screen passengers before they even arrive at the terminal. Why? Because pre-boarding liability is their biggest fear. One sick passenger can trigger quarantines, itinerary changes, and massive financial losses. That's why the system is unforgiving. If the health clearance isn't completed within the required window, passengers are flagged before check-in even begins. At the terminal, those passengers are pulled aside for secondary screening, sometimes long enough to miss boarding entirely. The fix is straightforward, but timing matters. Cruise lines typically send the health clearance email around 72 hours before departure. The moment it arrives, complete it the same day. Do not wait. Do not assume you'll handle it later at the port. In 2026, seniors who delay this step are the ones spending hours in secondary screening while everyone else walks on board. 5 minutes at home now prevents a very public, very stressful problem later. Rule 3. Age-based insurance enforcement. This one shocked me. In 2026, some cruise itineraries quietly introduced a rule that many seniors still don't know exists until it's too late. If you are over 70 and sailing to certain destinations, cruise lines can now block check-in without proof of medical evacuation coverage. No insurance confirmation, no boarding. This primarily affects remote and high-risk itineraries. Alaska, Northern Pacific routes, and other destinations far from major hospitals. Medical evacuations at sea can cost anywhere from $50,000 to over $100,000. Cruise lines are no longer willing to absorb that risk. That's why cruise insurance seniors over 70 has shifted from recommended to required on select sailings. And under Alaska cruise rules seniors, enforcement has become especially strict. Some cruise lines now verify insurance digitally during online check-in. If the policy doesn't meet the minimum evacuation threshold, the system can halt the process entirely. The fix starts with knowing the numbers. Most itineraries require at least $100,000 in medical evacuation coverage. Less than that may not be accepted. Timing matters too. Booking insurance within 14 days of your initial cruise deposit often protects pre-existing conditions, a detail many seniors overlook. Before final payment, ask one direct question. Does this itinerary require travel insurance for passengers over 70, and what coverage amount is mandatory? In 2026, assuming insurance is optional is no longer safe, especially when the system, not a human, decides whether you're allowed on board. Rule 4. Medication disclosure. Rule. This rule exists because of one interaction that nearly killed a passenger. In early 2026, a senior boarded a cruise carrying heart medication he had taken safely for years. On the first sea day, he took an over-the-counter seasickness pill, the same one sold in the ship's gift shop. Within hours, he collapsed. The issue wasn't his heart medication. It was the interaction between the two drugs. This is why cruise lines quietly strengthened their medication disclosure policies in 2026. Ships operate like small, floating cities, but medical resources are limited. When something goes wrong, the ship's medical team must act fast often without knowing what medications a passenger is taking. In response, cruise lines now strongly encourage seniors to complete early medical reviews, even if no problems are reported. Some itineraries now flag passengers over 65 for additional medication screening during the first 24 hours on board. Most seniors assume this level of disclosure is optional. It isn't. Unreported medications delay treatment. Delayed treatment increases risk. And in serious cases, it can mean evacuation at sea. The fix is one of the most underused benefits available to seniors. Passengers over 65 can request a complimentary medical consultation during the first day of the cruise. This consultation allows the ship's doctor to review your medications, identify potential interactions, and document everything in your onboard medical file. The request is simple. At guest services, ask to schedule a complimentary senior medical consultation. In 2026, this quiet step is no longer just a courtesy. It's a safety measure that can prevent a vacation from becoming a medical emergency. Rule 5. Loyalty status, not equal to protection. Cruising for 20 years doesn't grandfather you in. That's the reality many loyal passengers are discovering in 2026. Seniors who have sailed dozens of times often assume their status will protect them if a problem arises. It won't. In 2026, cruise lines rewrote enforcement guidelines to prioritize safety, liability, and automation, not loyalty history. That means rules are applied the same way to first-time cruisers and top-tier loyalty members. If your mobility device exceeds limits, loyalty won't override it. If your health clearance is incomplete, status won't unlock your boarding pass. If required insurance documentation is missing, no number of past sailings will change the outcome. Cruise lines made this shift because consistency protects them legally. Once exceptions are made, liability increases. So the system now decides first, and humans follow it. This is a hard adjustment for seniors who remember a time when relationships mattered more than checklists. The key change in 2026 is this. Past experience no longer predicts future outcomes. Every sailing is treated as a clean slate. Every passenger is evaluated under current rules, not historical ones. That's why experienced cruisers are often the most vulnerable. They assume they know the process. And this is exactly why what comes next matters. Because while loyalty no longer protects you from rule enforcement, it does unlock benefits. Cruise lines won't volunteer, but only if you know the right time and the right way to ask. Let me show you those perks next. Hidden senior perks. Cruise lines don't advertise perk 1, priority boarding. It exists, but they won't offer it. In 2026, most major cruise lines quietly maintain priority boarding assistance for seniors, not as a published benefit, not as a guaranteed entitlement, but as a discretionary accommodation. That distinction matters. Crew members are instructed not to announce it broadly, because if everyone qualifies, the system breaks down. So instead, priority boarding is reserved for passengers who ask, calmly and at the right moment. Timing is everything. The optimal moment is at the initial check-in desk, before your documents are scanned and before you're directed into the general boarding flow. This is where decisions are still flexible. Body language matters more than tone. Standing slightly to the side, not rushed, not apologetic. The phrase is simple and direct. I'm over 65 and would like to request priority boarding assistance, if available. No explanation is required. No medical justification is necessary. When asked politely and early, this request is frequently approved, especially on embarkation days with heavy crowds. It can reduce standing time from over an hour to just minutes. Many seniors wait in long lines simply because they don't want to seem demanding. In 2026, asking is not demanding. It's informed. And this is just the first example of how knowing what to ask for quietly changes your entire cruise experience. Perk 2. Drink package discounts for 65 plus. This discount does not exist online. In 2026, cruise websites show one price for drink packages, and for most seniors, that price is higher than necessary. What cruise lines don't advertise is that senior cruise drink package discount pricing still exists inside loyalty department systems. These discounts are unpublished, unsearchable, and inaccessible through online booking portals. Only phone agents in loyalty departments can see them, and only if you ask the right way. Cruise lines do this intentionally. They prefer seniors call rather than skip drink packages entirely. But they don't want to advertise discounts that reduce online revenue. The timing window matters. These discounts are most commonly available between 30 and 60 days before sailing. The phrase matters even more. I'm over 65 and a loyalty member. Are there any senior sailing promotions available for drink packages on my upcoming cruise? That wording signals three things at once: age eligibility, loyalty value, and promotional awareness. If the agent says no, that's not the final answer. Different agents have different access levels. Calling back later often produces a different result. In 2026, seniors who know this routinely save hundreds of dollars, not because they qualified differently, but because they asked differently. Perk 3. Solo senior cabin upgrades. 4 agents told me the same thing. Solo travelers over 65 have one of the highest upgrade success rates of any demographic, and cruise lines rarely explain why. The reason is simple: risk. Empty cabins generate no revenue. Upgrading a loyal senior costs the cruise line nothing and increases satisfaction metrics dramatically. This is especially true within 30 days of sailing, when unsold cabins are unlikely to be purchased. Solo senior travelers are considered low-risk upgrades. They're unlikely to cancel. They're respectful of property, and they tend to cruise again. That combination makes them ideal candidates. But upgrades are not automatic. The key is timing and approach. Calling the loyalty department around 30 days before departure yields the best results. The request should be framed as availability-based, not expectation-based. Asking whether any complimentary upgrades are available if inventory allows keeps the conversation open. In 2026, many seniors miss this opportunity simply because they assume upgrades are reserved for elite status members. They aren't. They're reserved for passengers. Cruise lines want to keep, and informed seniors are high on that list. Perk 4. Shore excursion. Senior pricing. If you booked online, you already paid too much. In 2026, senior discounts for shore excursions still exist, but not where most people look. Cruise websites display standard pricing with no visible age-based reductions. That leads many seniors to assume discounts are gone. They aren't. They've simply moved on board. Senior pricing is now primarily applied through the ship's shore excursion desk, where staff can verify eligibility in person. Online systems can't apply these discounts. On-board systems can. That's why booking excursions before sailing often locks seniors into higher prices. The fix is straightforward. Wait until you're on board. Visit the shore excursion desk. Bring your identification. Discounts typically range from 10 to 20%, depending on the port and activity level. On longer cruises with multiple excursions, the savings add up quickly. Cruise lines prefer this system because it allows them to manage group sizes and verify mobility considerations at the same time. In 2026, the best shore excursion deals for seniors aren't found online. They're found on board quietly, efficiently, and only if you know where to look. 5. Moves that guarantee a better 2026 cruise. Everything you've heard so far comes down to this. In 2026, cruising well isn't about experience. It's about preparation. The first move is timing. Call the loyalty department 45 days before sailing. This is where senior promotions, drink package adjustments, and potential upgrades exist, not online. The second move is mindset. Never assume old rules still apply. Cruise lines change policies quietly, and seniors who rely on past experience are the ones caught off guard. Every sailing must be treated as new. The third move is self-advocacy. Ask for assistance early. Priority boarding and boarding support often exist, but they are rarely offered automatically. Seniors who ask calmly and early are the ones who receive help. The fourth move is where you book. Book shore excursions on board, not online. This is where senior pricing is applied and flexibility still exists. Online bookings lock you into fixed prices. The fifth move is language. Use cruise line language, not customer language. Terms like loyalty, eligibility, availability, and promotions unlock options. General questions never will. In 2026, the difference between a stressful cruise and a smooth one isn't luck. It's knowing how the system works and moving through it with confidence. If you're over 65, comment your age and cruise line. I'll tell you exactly which of these 2026 rules applies to your next sailing. If this video helped you, tap the like button. It helps other seniors find this information before it costs them a cruise. And subscribe. These rules are changing quickly, and staying informed is the only real protection. These 2026 rules are only the beginning. Cruise lines are quietly changing how they manage older passengers, and the cost of not knowing is rising fast. The difference between a smooth cruise and a stressful one is no longer experience. It's information. Don't cruise like it's 2019. Cruise like it's 2026.